it's actually it's a very difficult scenario whenever you see a young permanent tooth with a carious lesion or a developmental defect or a fracture when you see. So I'm just concentrating here. My main purpose of this webinar is to just show some lights to how can you manage an young permanent tooth which is been affected by dental caries, which has been affected by any developmental defect, which has been affected by even trauma, especially when there is an enamel to pulp fracture. So it's purely on to those young permanent teeth with where what all regenerative procedures and what all things can as a general practitioners we can do. It's an amazing field, and many times we miss a lot of points. So I just want to throw some lights onto the practical thing that how we can approach this. Start off with that. When I was once coming out from an airport, Delhi airport, I booked my cab and I was just coming out from the Delhi airport. I was waiting for my cab, which I booked, Ola or Uber. I was booked. I was searching for my cab. As I was searching for my cab, I could see my cab approaching me. I noticed my number, but the cab is approaching me. A neat, well painted, nicely maintained cab came approach to me. From the cab, a well-dressed driver came out. He just handed over his card to me and said, My name is Aman Singh. I'm the driver for today. You have booked me, and this is my mission statement, my mission statement." And he said the statement, what is that, to take my customer to the destination in the quickest, safest, and the cheapest way as possible in a friendly environment is my aim. So I went inside the cab. The cab was extremely neat and clean. There was not even a single dust inside. There was perfume, scented. Everything was neatly arranged. So as he started the journey, he asked me, "Do you want a tea or a coffee? Because I have a vending machine in my car. Do you want anything to drink? That is also many fridges available. If you want a bottle of water, there's a filter water, mineral water is there. You want anything, you want newspaper, magazine, everything is there inside the cab because your journey is going to take some time. Be comfortable, sir. I'm going to take you to the destination as early as possible. So be comfortable." So he asked me on the way, as my AC is okay, should I increase or should I look at the sound of the music? Should you want to change the sound of the music? All those things he asked, "Sir, if you have to go out anywhere, I have a Google map. I have everything along with me. If you want anything, you can contact me later so I can take you to anywhere because I have all the places covered after your work." So just unusual way of his approach. I was supposed to ask him, "Have you always served your customer like this?" I was forced to ask because the way that he was, whatever I want, whatever I would like to have, he's giving me, he's offering me without even me asking. So I just asked him, "You are always like this, all these years of all the customers you've been like this, you started your job like this?" He said, "No." He just smiled at me. I mean, just smiled at me and said, "I was not like this. I was not like this because I used to be like every other cab driver. I used to shout at my customer. I never bothered them. I was just to do my job. That's all my botheration. How much collection should I get on the end of the day is my priority. I was not just bothered. And I used to complain every day. The roads are not good. It's rainy season. Its roads are good. It's fuel charge days. There's everything. I used to complain myself. Each and every bit I used to complain myself. Then I heard about something called the power of choice one day. I heard a speech about power of choice. That changed my life. That changed my attitude. What is that? The power of choice. The power of choice is the power to fly high like an eagle or quack, quack, quack like a duck. What is the difference between that? The eagle fly high. It doesn't make any sound. Whenever it wants to catch the prey, it goes and catch the prey and goes to its next. Nobody knows what it does. What it does is job silently. But as a duck, it quack, 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 and people get irritated with that. So he started telling, I was complaining everything. I used to complain the government. I used to complain the traffic police. I used to complain the people who are crossing. They are not looking. I used to complain even the passenger. They are not good, neat. they are not paying me correctly. All those things was there. But once I learned the power, once I started looking into my friends, their earnings, everyone in the same boat. Their earnings at the end of the day is same, and their spending is the same. There's no, I am always the same boat. Then I started changing it. So that made me to change my attitude towards the customer. I started taking care of them the right way that I should have. Now I don't have to go and stand in a queue. I get a call booking on booking. I don't have to go anywhere. The next day schedule is done. 10 o'clock this booking, 11 o'clock this booking, 12 o'clock this booking. The day is in full. I will be called by all the customers because they remember me, they like me, and they make sure that if I am there in the town, they call me only. That's the power of the choice. So I'm not just joking. There are people, small little things. If you go in and around, you can see there are people who have tremendously changed the way they do their job. They have not changed the profession, but they have just maintained a dignity and they maintained a proper way of taking care of the customer. Now let us come to dentistry. Every patient is a customer, but more than that, they are also human beings. So we as a dentist have a role to develop our practice. You have to take care of them the right way. You have to build slowly and one at a time. You have to slowly build your clinic, your practice setups. That's very important because you cater different type of people in a clinic. It's not like one type of people should come into your clinic always. Different types of people comes, and you should always cater every group of people in your private practice. That's the success that you need. For that, you have to take the power of choice. Do not complain about the patient. Do not complain about dentist. Do not complain about that. You do your job silently. You will be a successful practitioner like that eagle. You will fly high. So wish you all the best. That's just a message that I want to give. This is one aspect in your practice that you might have missed. You might have noticed it, but ignored it or referred it, whatever. That's you also have to start practicing because you cannot, because nowadays the trauma cases are more, the enamel incisal hypermineralization is more, the dental caries is more, especially very young permanent tooth, and its management is very important tool that you should have in your practice. So I just want to throw my lights into this young permanent tooth. They are just like a tender leaves. They are this tender soft leaves, but you can see they are very soft. They are not mature like an adult permanent tooth of two reasons. One reason is the child is not mature enough to understand your protocol of treatment. First thing that you have to understand that no child is mature enough to understand your protocol of the treatment. He's not bothered about it. One thing. Second thing is tooth structure is very tender and delicate. So you have to handle it very carefully. So two aspects. That's one I'm going to talk here about the management of a patient and the management of the tooth. Both things that you need to take into consideration. So let's talk about the tooth first. The features of a crowd of an immature or of a young permanent tooth. First and the foremost thing, the enamel are not matured. Okay, the enamel of a newly erupted tooth are not mature. There is something called post-eruptive maturation is there. The saliva, the calcium, will go. So they are porous in nature. So conventional way that you use a burr, you can't use it for a young permanent tooth with that speed and that huge burr. You can't use it for a young permanent tooth. Be little more soft because the enamel and the dentin are not mature in an young permanent tooth. The dentin walls are thin because there is no successional dentin that is formed because it's just erupted into the oral cavity. So that takes years of time for the thick dentin walls to form as the pulp matures, as the root matures. So that is also one additional point that you need to take. And dentin is not hard; it is very soft. And the pulp horns, they are placed very high, especially the mesial pulp horns of the molars are placed very high. So you should be very gentle in handling this. So a young permanent tooth just erupting, it is immature enamel, thin enamel, porous enamel. Dentin is also thin and porous, and pulp horns extend high into the dentin, not like a mature enamel where there is sufficient thickness. Is that this doesn't have that. So that thing you need to take into care. Now, when you talk about young permanent tooth, it is not just the first molar that should come into your mind. It is the central incisor, it is a premolar, or even second molar. It is just erupted into the cavity. All those things will come under the young permanent tooth. Not only one particular tooth I'm going to talk about, all the teeth which are there. So that is the features of the enamel part or the crown part. What about the root? Same way, they are under the process of developing and the canals are all wide open. That's the problem. The canals are wide open with abundant blood supply and immature in their development. And the advantage for us is they have a repair capability. So the canals of an immature teeth, if you see, they are wide open. They are not closed like an immature teeth, and they are very thin walls of cementum and dentines. Very thin walls, very soft and delicate, and they have some amount of some regenerative potential is there. So this area is very important for us whenever we start dealing with an immature teeth, this apical area. So like this, the canals called blunderbuss, you might have heard about it, the blunderbuss gun. That's a gun that is used in the Middle East, sorry, in Europe. They discovered this, which has got a huge opening at the beginning. So it's like a thunderbolt. The sound is like a thunderbolt. It's called blunderbuss, and it's called blunderbuss canal. So this tooth is the exact. Their apex are wide open, either parallel or little more conical. They are. So that's a problem with us. There's a significant problem. I will talk about the significance of that. So importance that we should take care whenever you deal with this tooth is there's a very thin, delicate dentition cemental layer at the apex, and it is highly vascular. There are potential regeneration. So you cannot use a bar watches or a H files, all those things you cannot use for this tooth, because the reason is they grab the epithelial tissue and they pull it out, and that means the potential for regeneration is lost. So always and always you should use be very soft and gentle whenever you handle an immature. Because I've seen people using H files and bar watches to remove the pulp. That is not for a immature tooth. That is very risky. So you should be very careful in access opening. That is because I told you the dentin, the enamel and dentin, especially the neck of the tooth, enamel and dentin are very thin. So if you do not carefully see the preoperative IOPA, make sure you have a preoperative IOPA in front of your screen when you start access opening for an immature tooth, because I told you the neck of the tooth is very thin. High chance of neck perforation are there in an immature teeth. So be very careful when you do an access opening. Use go very slowly. High speed burr you are using, but go slowly. Okay, and at the neck towards the side, you should be very careful when you do access opening, because there's a high chance of perforation of the CEJ junction is there. Second thing is vigorous instrumentation. Avoid vigorous instrumentation, which H5s, broaches and all. You should avoid that, because I told you they are very thin. And irrigation is an issue. Irrigation use should be very carefully used, because you know the canals are open. So if you push the irrigants into the canals, especially hypochlorite and all, if you push it beyond the apex, the patient will have a severe pain or post-operative. There's a chances are there. So you should be very careful in using. These are 3 clinical tips I just want to tell you because of the open apex. Be very gentle in access opening, be very gentle in your instrumentation, and your irrigants usage should be well controlled when you use the irrigant. Do not push too much of irrigants into the apical area, because this apex, you can see the apex are wide open. You can push material into the apex. That's not good for you. So success rate will be less. So now comes to the immature tooth. Let's come to clinically. What are the 2 types of immature tooth you might come across with your clinical practice? Basically, there are 2 types of immature tooth. Either it's a permanent, molar, or it's incisor or a premolar. There are 2 types of basic tooth that you come across. One is your immature vital tooth, an immature open apex vital tooth, and an immature non-vital. There are 2 things that you can come across. So immature means canals are not closed. So either they are vital, they are non-vital. So the management protocol for both are different. That's why I'm stressing it. The management protocol for a vital immature tooth, the management protocol for a non-vital immature tooth are different paths. So that's the important things that you have to identify. So first and the foremost is you have to identify whether the tooth is vital or non-vital. That's the most important thing that you have to identify in your clinics. So there are 3 conditions you can come across an immature tooth. And what are the 3 conditions you come across where you will have the most common 3 conditions that you come across. One is immature tooth which is affected by dental caries. Because of high risk dental caries, immature tooth is easily affected by the caries. So that is one thing that you need. Second thing is enamel hypoplasia, especially molar incisor hypomineralization. That's MIH. One of the most common enamel hypoplasia type is molar incisal hypomineralization. That's very common nowadays. So that condition can also cause an early pulpal involvement and pain. And lastly, trauma is another three important clinically a situation that you come across most commonly. So I'm going to discuss specific to these three clinical situations and how we can handle these three clinical situations depending upon a vital immature tooth and a non-vital immature tooth. So these three clinical conditions will be discussed in detail. So coming about dental caries, dental caries in a young tooth is at risk. Okay, whenever you see a dental caries in the central pit, especially the lower molar and the distal pit of upper molar, okay, not the mesial pit, the distal pit of the upper molar and the central pit of the lower molar, whenever you see a pit caries, please and please do not try to work on it. First and the foremost, whatever the complaint the patient says, no pain, with pain, you cannot trust all these things, okay? Especially for kids, you cannot trust all this. Whenever you see a deep kind of caries, by the look itself is a deep kind of active caries lesion, feel like that you are there, please take an IOPA first. Okay, don't give in to the patient's complaint that no pain, nothing, and just go and fill it. Because I told you the reasons, I told you why, because the enamel is thin, the dentin is thin, pulp counts are high. So if you keep a temporary also onto this, there might be a pain or aggravation of the pain within week times or 2 weeks time. The patient will come back with swelling or pain or anything because the pulp counts are very high and the dentin wall is very thin. So when you take an IOP, the same case, when you take an IOP, you might have my God, already the pulp is involved, but it doesn't looks like. But when you see that pulp is involved, because I told you, the spread of caries is so fast in this immature teeth that you may not even understand that. And child may not purposefully won't tell also. That is a problem. Some children will never tell because of the scare. They think teeth has to be removed, injections. They somehow unroll it. To understand all these practical things whenever you are dealing with an immature or just erupted tooth. First and find out what is happening, whatever the patient says. Okay, that's the importance of dental caries and IOP. Another situation that you come across is this condition. Molar incisal hypomineralization of the molar. Enamel to tip off with occlusal load, or if it is too severe kind of enamel hypoplasia, even coming out itself, we can see the enamel is completely gone and the dentin is exposed. Like I told you, dentin is very thin. Patient may have severe sensitivity or pain into this teeth. This is another, and enamel is so brittle. With your explorer, you can easily scoop out, or the excavator, you can easily scoop out the enamel. That powder kind of enamel, like a powder, chalky powder kind of enamel. Involvement of enamel, dentin, and pulp. So pulp is exposed. Okay, there is either minute exposure of the pulp is already there. So these are the conditions that you might come across with an immature tooth where the roots are not developed. So when you come across with these three clinical conditions, what are the procedures what are the options left in front of you to treat this? There are three options in front of you, depending upon the type of the immature tooth, vital and non-vital. There are three procedures that comes under. One is apexogenesis, another one is apexification and revascularization. Are the three procedures which we are going to discuss when you see this kind of conditions in open exposure of the pulp, either by caries, trauma, or in molar incisor hypomineralization. There are three options left in front of you, and we will discuss one by one. Okay, we will discuss one by one. Apexogenesis is the one thing. So what is apexogenesis? It is done in a vital immature permanent teeth. That's one catch. I just want you vital immature. Remember, I told you there are vital and non-vital. So apexogenesis is always and always done in a vital immature permanent teeth without an apical closure is there. So the tooth can be vital. The live pulp. Pulp is live. There is no problem. It is reversibly inflamed only, not irreversibly inflamed. Reversibly inflamed pulp in a trauma which has happened just now, 1 hour before the trauma has happened, or 24 hours, within 24 hours the trauma has happened, the patient has come back. Night, 10 o'clock, child played, it fell down and broke. The next day morning they have come. So those kind of situations are the situation where the tooth is vital, the pulp is vital there, 24 hours not even done. Okay, and caries, where it is a reversible caries, or incise MIH, where there is a vital pulp is there, it is reversible in time, no severe pain, night pain, no swelling, no abscess, nothing. So that's the condition where you use a procedure called apexogenesis. And what is that procedure? The apex is wide open, so you keep a biocompatible material at the pulp. Okay, on the pulp stem, you keep a biocompatible material. So it's just like a wound, just like a cut in your hand comes, you keep a dressing. Exactly, you keep a dressing onto that. This dressing is a biocompatible material which reduces the microorganism, which stimulates the pulp to undergo normal physiological root. The root will come and join, just like any other tooth. And it can survive because the pulp is vital. The tooth can survive because in the canal there are vital pulp remaining. So that's the best thing. The apexogenesis, you need to you should have a pulp which is vital or irreversibly inflamed. And only the infected pulp is removed. So the infected pulp will be the most superficial pulp. Okay, in the canal, whenever the tooth, next to the enamel, that part will be the infected part. So that is the one that will you remove. And a dressing is placed to heal the pulp, and the normal physiological root development will take place. So this procedure is called pulpotomy. Okay, it's called pulpotomy or apexogenesis. You can call it in a permanent tooth. It is called pulpotomy in a permanent tooth. What means to cut the pulp? So literally, we are just chopping the infected pulp, and the rest of the pulp is allowed to remain so that they can function normally. That's exactly what that we done. Now this is done by two methodology. You cut the cervical part, you cut the coronal pulp only, or you cut a very narrow portion of the coronal pulp only. So there are two methods of pulpotomy. One is called the conventional pulpotomy, where you cut the entire coronal pulp, you as a junk, as a junk, as a in toto, you remove the coronal pulp. And another thing is, not the entire coronal pulp is removed. A little bit about the coronal pulp is removed. Coronal pulp is removed. We'll see one by one what is that. First is a cervical pulpotomy, which I said you remove the entire coronal pulp in toto. Okay, so only the radicular pulp in the radicals remain there. When you do this, you do this procedure whenever there is an accidental exposure. Like I told you, you try to excavate a deep carious lesion in an immature tooth, thinking that it is not very deep. You did not take an IOP also. You started excavating it with a spoon excavator, or suddenly one area the burr went deep inside, or your spoon excavator removed a huge chunk of dendri, which was soft, and that exposed the pulp. There is a mild bleeding spot or redness you can see. Patient may say a pain, but after that there is no pain. If you touch, there is a pain, but after that pain, immediately pain goes because the pulp is vital. It is not inflamed irreversibly. So a tooth which is asymptomatic with episodes of mild to transient pain, and you try to do a filling onto that, or just to try to remove the soft areas to do a filling, or while you're using a accidentally you expose the pulp. That is a condition where you can use a pulpotomy procedure rather than going for a pulpectomy or anything. And you know that tooth is, the root is not fully formed. You have to allow the root to be. Do not worry about it. If the pulp is exposed, do not worry. Be happy. It is going to expose one day. So do not worry about it. If it is exposed, have confidence. I will tell you the procedure that you have to do. It is a very good procedure. Nowadays, the materials are so good. You will be doing a better procedure, and you will be filling with in a deep caries. You do a hard setting filling, and that the pulp inside gets hyperemic and go for non-vitality at latest time. So that is why if it is getting exposed, do not worry about it. I tell my students, do not worry about it. Be happy with that, because it is not your problem that you have exposed, because the caries is, you can't judge the caries softness. It has happened, you removed it, came out. It was a soft caries. Anyway, it has to go and it came out. That's it. So then you have another option for this pulpotomy, which is very predictive. 96% of success rate is there with the pulpotomy. So do not worry about if the pulp is exposed. Do not get worried about it. You can have other better techniques are available here. So it is indicated in a caries lesion with accidental exposure. In that case, if you have not taken an IOP, please stop at that time and take an IOP and find out any radical pathology is there. All those things, anything you have to see that, please do that. Okay, and the tooth has been restorable. Otherwise, it's very difficult to do that. So that is the about pulpotomy. Uh, Pulpotomy. So next option is a traumatic injury. Now suddenly, while you are about to go or about to close your clinic, you can see a father and mother running with a patient with a lot of bleeding, and you can see, which usually happens in a Saturday or a Saturday evening or a Friday evening. You can see after the school, they're walking into a clinic with a broken incisors, usually broken incisors with at least class 3 fracture. So directly they will be coming from school or from the home they are coming. So the time elapsed is less than 24 hours to 72 hours. That's a good tooth where you can save the radicular pulp. Okay, do not extirpate the radicular pulp. The pulp has got a potential to regenerate. I told you they are highly vascular and they are wide open. There is plenty of scope for them to revascularize or to regenerate. So do not remove. That's the beauty of the pulp. Okay, so in an open apex pulp, do not get tensed about that condition. A simple procedure which we are going to discuss will help you. I will save you the patient's pulp in a vital stage for lifelong. So those traumatic injuries that is happen immediately or within 24 to 72 hours are a good thing for a pulpotomy procedure. Okay, so what is the technique of this pulpotomy? The cervical pulpotomy. The cervical means you remove the entire coronal part of the pulp till the cervix. So only the radicular pulp is left. So let's start with the case discussion with a cervical pulpotomy. How it is been performed in a case. Let's start with the case. Now this is a case. This is a 9.5-year-old, not 11.5 years. So patient reported to us with a complaint of occasional pain with having whenever she has got cold drinks or sweet, she get occasional pain. And you can see already there is some spilling on the buccal side is that. So she had that problem, but there was no chronic pain or continuous pain. On look itself, it was a big caries lesion. So first and the foremost thing is IOP has to be taken. So we took an IOPA, and as again the buccal filling you can see an IOPA, but there is a layer of dendrit, is a slight roof of the pulp is slightly come down. So that means it was a lesion that is long standing, but there was no problem. Pulp was tried to invade. It is a reversible inflamed condition. There is no much problem. There is no periapical pathology. And if you see the root apex, you can see the apex is not fully closed. The mesial canal, sorry, the distal one especially, you can see the wide open apex is there. The procedure. So the procedure first is to get the pain control. So you have to give a inferior alveolar nerve block for the lower or any block. If it is an upper, that has to be done. Then rubber dam isolation. It is best to do or mandatory. It is to do under rubber dam isolation with the tooth structure where you can keep it. But sometimes in enamel hypoplasia patient, you will be difficult. Then you can use the split dam technique. You do rubber dam on the adjacent tooth which is present and spread it onto the other tooth and use a gel surrounding the tooth so that the saliva ingress will be less. So that modifications you can do when you apply rubber dam when the tooth structure is too less, especially when a enamel hypoplasia, you keep the rubber dam clap. That moment you keep rubber dam clap, cluck, it will fracture. The crown will fracture because I told you enamel is hypoplastic. So you don't try to put rubber dam on an enamel hypoplastic tooth. Use a split dam technique, or an adjacent tooth or a distal tooth. You put the clamp which is good. If it is good, you use that and stretch this onto the tooth where you want to do, and use a gel to circle the tooth so that bacterial the saliva ingress can be controlled. So that's one modification you can do that. Once you are done that, then complete removal of the caries with the slow speed burr is done. This is after the isolation and the complete removal. The same case, complete removal of the soft caries dendine all around the tooth is done. And one tip I want to tell you is to get pain control in this kind of tooth, especially children 7, 8, 9 years. It is most difficult to get 100% of anesthesia in this patient. It's very difficult to get 100% anesthesia. Lignocaine I discarded lignocaine especially for this kind of children, especially when I treat 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old children, especially with permanent molar, with enamel hypoplasia, or with dental caries. We use something called Articaine. 4% Articaine is a wonderful thing that you can buy and keep. It is a very powerful and potent anesthetic. It can give you a good anesthesia, especially tooth with the hot tooth. If you can get a good sufficient, because it is required, okay, because especially patient cooperation is very important. If you do not get a good patient anesthesia, you had it. So do not use lignocaine, 2% lignocaine for this kind of situations. Articaine found to be a very good alternative for that. Okay, so that's what. Sometimes, and the second thing is the level of the site of injection. Okay, so the child is between 7 to 9 years. You should not go high onto the your pterygomandibular raphe. Okay, you should be at the occlusal, at the level of occlusal plane. The in site of needle penetration should be at the level of occlusal plane, because the mandibular foramen is at that level till 9 years of age. So that's one another thing that you need to look at. Sometimes you might require an intrapulpal. Be prepared for that also. Okay, be prepared for that also. An intrapulpal could be very effective sometimes, especially when a hot tooth you are going to deal with, especially in MIH case, you might require intrapulpal also. So this is some tips I want to tell you about getting a proper pain control, which is very important, and using of rubber dam should be cautioned in MIH conditions. So once you have done the soft caries removal, everything you have done, then you have to just remove, just like you do access opening for your own conventional uh, RCT cases. You can remove the removal of the pulp chamber can be done. So here again, I told you the precautions when you go towards the side, especially for the anterior tooth, molars that don't have the anterior permanent, anterior upper anteriors. When you use the burr, when you go side, be very careful, because the enamel and dentin are very thin. Perforation chances are very high when you do that. So that's the only thing that you need to know. Once you have removed the pulp, roof of the pulp, and the pulp bone is good, just observe the bleeding from the, then start amputation of the coronal pulp. Okay, you have to ambute the coronal pulp. How will you ambute the coronal pulp? The best, it could be a sharp spoon excavator. Okay, Euphrates, it's one of the best sharp spoon excavator you can get and buy and keep it. That's a very good one. Buy a good sharp spoon excavator, or you can use a round burr with slow speed. Okay, use a round burr with slow speed. Now, when you use a round burr with a slow speed, do not use the same burr that you have used for removing the soft dentinal caries, or you have to do a cold sterilization, but there is no time. Why I am telling you is because since you have removed the soft dentinal caries, there could be a bacteria, there could be some soft dentinal caries or some remnants attached onto the burr which you have already used to remove the roof of the pulp chamber. So here you need a very sterile environment to remove the coronal, the radicular. So you need the pulp. You are anticipating that pulp will go for healing, so it should be free of germs. That's very important, and no debris should be there. Okay, no debris should stick onto the radicular pulp. Sterile gauze soaked in local anesthesia, which you have taken. The bleeding very faster. That can be done. So that you can do. Once it is done, then irrigation, copious amount of irrigation is required to remove any debris. So you can to remove the debris properly. So whenever you're using hypochlorite, it has to be done. The sequential usage. First, if you're using hypochlorite, it should be followed by saline. If you're again using hypochlorite, again saline. So saline should be the last one. That the sterile saline should be the last one that you should be using, because you don't want the hypochlorite remnants to be there inside the chamber. So this is that I have done. I have opened the roof of the pulp chamber, and I can see the roof. I removed the coronal part of the pulp, and I can see there is a radicular pulp visible. The mesial, mesiobuccal, mesiolingual, and the distal pulp bones are very visible for me. And can you see the live pulp? There is not even a single drop of bleeding or oozing out of bleeding from that. It's a healthy pulp now. Okay, it's a healthy pulp that is can go for repair if you allow them to go that. So that's the next procedure, that has been roof of the pulp chamber removed, irrigated, and controlled. Bleeding has been arrested. Once the bleeding has been arrested, then it's the application of a therapeutic agent, and I will discuss about the therapeutic agent, the medicaments that are you using it. So you have to use the medicament. The appropriate medicament has to be used. Once you use the medicament, on top of the medicament, you keep an IRM or a cavitum, whatever according to you. A thin layer, a layer of cavitum, which plays as a base. Okay, as a base thickness amount, you have to keep an IRM or a cavitum can be used. An IRM or a cavitum can be used in a base thickness, and then you have to keep the core. Core has to be either, usually I use resin modified GIC. That's one of the best thing. Resin modified GIC is one thing that use, or even type 9 GS is equally good. That is being used to restore the rest of the tooth. Is been restored. Once it is been restored, then we give a, once this is restoration has been done, you can see the restoration is being done. The medicament is kept, and on top of that, a layer of IRM is kept, and GIC is being used as a, or composite can also be used. No problem. We can use for that. So that is done. And finally, a permanent stainless steel crowns are available. Okay, better to go for a permanent stainless steel crown. That will be safer, and keep the patient under regular radiographic assessment every 3 months. I suggest you every 3 months when the patient come, you keep the patient and check for any pain or sensitivity or any discomfort or any swelling or anything. Every 6 months is better to take an IOP also. It is better to take an IOP and see. Now you can see the root is getting slowly closed. Can you see the root is getting slowly getting closed. Here it was open. It is open. You can see open. Now it is slowly, it's getting elongated and slowly normal physiological root closure. You can see that. So this is the procedure for a pulpotomy. Now coming to the medicaments, I told you, step I told you. Now what medicament you keep? Conventionally, as you all know, calcium hydroxide is the medicament, is the most commonly used there. So if you are using calcium hydroxide, use first a plain non-setting calcium hydroxide is available. You know that the simple powder which has to be mixed with the sterile water, your saline. That's the best. First you have, or you avail some Apex Cal or something. It's available that you use. First you use something like this or an Apex Cal. Then on top of this, you have to use a hard setting calcium hydroxide or dical. So directly do not use dical. First use a plain setting calcium, because the availability of calcium is very important. That's why use a plain setting calcium hydroxide. First thin layer of plain setting calcium hydroxide is done. Just wait, and on top of that you use a dical, a hard setting dical is. Then you keep your IRM and followed by your GIC. So if you're using calcium hydroxide, be sure use a plain non-setting first, followed by a dical, followed by IRM, followed by your filling and crown. That should be the procedure for pulpotomy in a primary immature tooth when you're using calcium hydroxide. Dical, because you all know Dical. Directly do not use Dical, hard setting one. Okay, that's one thing that I need to tell you. Now, other therapeutic medicaments that has come is MTA and Biodentin. Both have come into the market. That's wonderful. I use this Angelus MTA and even Biodentin. We use both. Both have shown tremendous result with a good predictable result that has been given by Biodentin and MTA. So the only problem with Biodentin is little more expensive compared to MTA. So to summarize with pulpotomy, so just to summarize, a case with occasional pain, irreversible pulpitis with due to dental caries. We took an IOPA, found out that there is enough dentin remaining is there, no pathology, root is immature, rubber dam isolation, LA, articaine is good 4%. You remove the soft caries lesions, you opened it up, arrested the bleeding, you keep the medicament inside, give an IRM inside, then you give a GIC or a composite and give a stainless steel crown and keep the patient follow up every 3 months and every 6 months. Better to take an IUPA and find out. And in each recall visit, look for sensitivity or any pathological change or anything patient is having it. Just look into that. Okay, so that's the protocol for a pulpotomy. Okay, just is an MTA. How will you use MTA? I've told about MTA. This is a YouTube video. Just see how MTA is being mixed and used. MTA carriers are available. You can buy your MTA carriers, or if you have that amalgam carrier, if you have that, this kind of amalgam carriers are also there. If you have that amalgam carrier, it is easier. You can carry it onto the chamber, and you can keep it onto the chamber. And that's MTA. And the setting time, how much the setting time for MTA? The latest, the Angelus is around 10 to 15 minutes is the setting time of the MTA. So it's very fast. Early it was 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and 3 hours. So we need multiple appointments. But now the latest one is 10 to 15 minutes is the setting time. So what we do is, after keeping this, spreading it onto the part of the coronal pulp chamber, we keep a moist cotton and wait it for 10 to 15 minutes. And by the time it will be hard, it will be set. And on top of that, we keep an IRM and a GIC and a cap, a stainless steel cap can be given. That's how we does that. Now, coming to Biodentin, it's another material that has come into the market for Biodentin.
To prepare for use, gently tap the capsule to diffuse the powder, then open the capsule. Place the capsule on the holder and gently tap on the cap of the liquid pipettes to allow the mixing solution to descend. Open the pipettes by turning the cap and pour exactly 5 drops of mixing solution into the capsule. Close the capsule and mix for 30 seconds in a triturator. When mixing is complete, remove the material with an instrument, place it on the operatory site, and allow to set. Biodentin sets in 12 minutes from start of mix, allowing ample time to prepare for use.
So, Biodentin, if you talk about Biodentin, it sets by just around 12 minutes. So it's much easy. You don't need a carrier also. The consistency is such that you don't need a carrier also to keep it inside. So Biodentin is also very good. So these two products have come into the market, which are slowly replacing calcium hydroxide, because of the success rate with this are very good. So the clinical tips which I have to convey at this point of time, cervical pulpotomy is whenever, especially with the trauma cases, if you are doing it, if you're going to do cervical pulpotomy, make sure it is in between 24 to 72 hours. The reason is a pulp which is exposed more than 72 hours, that means 3 days almost, then the microorganism might even cross the coronal pulp and reach the radicular pulp. The inflammation might be almost involving the radicular pulp also. That is why it is better if any condition which is less than 3 days, as the days are less and less, it is the more success rate you will get. So one tip I have written, whenever a condition like clastic fracture comes, just ask the patient when it has happened. Immediately, do not worry. You can do that. Or a day, best. After that, it's like it's a risk is there. Success rate reduces. Chances are there. You should be very cautious about doing that. Okay. So, and second most important thing is, another important thing is, once you remove the coronal pulp, you should see the bleeding from the radicular pulp is there or not. There should not be any bleeding from the radicular pulp. It should be completely stopped. It should be fresh tissue you can see. So there should not be any bleeding from the radicular pulp. That again shows the radicular pulp is vital, can survive. Now, a condition like this, if you see where there is a oozing out and the color of the bleed is dark red in color, please, that means the radicular pulp is also chronically inflamed. This chances of success rate is very less. There's high chance that, don't take the risk. High chance of failure rate is there. Better to go for the next option. We have another option. Then why you are worried about? Okay, don't compromise that. The one thing that you need to do that. Look it for the amputated site. Look for the bleeding. Okay. So if it is a bright red color, you are safe. You are safe. But it is a dark red color. It shows an indication of a chronically inflamed radicular pulp. You have to plan for plan B should be there with you. Next is CEVEC pulpotomy. That is it's called shallow pulpotomy. The procedure and everything is safe. Only I just want to tell you when the exposure is very small. Okay, when accident exposure while deep exposure is very small amount of exposure, very little amount of exposure has taken place with the caries lesion, and traumatic exposure, immediately the patient comes with a traumatic exposure. Okay, there is not too huge like what I showed you picture where half the crown is gone. The too much of exposure is a large exposure is there. Only option will be cervical pulpotomy here. But there are conditions you might have experienced when only the enamel chip is little area is chipped off, and you can see a reddish halo pulp horn you can see under beneath. Okay, so according to your eyes, it is not a true exposure, but microscopically there are exposure taken place. So those kind of situation like this, you can see there is an exposure, very minimal exposure, only the chip, like a mild amount of dentine and the pulp bone is little bit exposed. Now for this also should we do a cervical pulpotomy? No way. There's no requirement for that, provided if the patient comes within 12 hours is the best. I said 12 to 24 is the best. Under 24 hours, if the patient comes, you have an option called CEVEC pulpotomy or a shallow pulpotomy. It's a very simple procedure with faster procedure than your cervical pulpotomy. What you will see what it is done, where the pulpal exposure is very, very minimal, less than 0.5 millimeter, we can say. How to do that? Again, your local anesthesia, which I already told you, articaine 4%. I think it's the best. Place the rubber dam to isolate. Operative is mandatory. Now, once you are done with your burr, okay, with the burr, a sterile diamond round burr or a straight hand piece burr, you remove 1 to 2 millimeter of pulp tissue intentionally. Okay, just 1 to 2 millimeter at the exposed site, you remove that. Now wash the pulp with a saline until the hemorrhage stops and no blood clot should be there. I remember I showed you that amputated pulp site, no blood clot should be there. Now place the medicament, the same medicament, the same thing. Either calcium hydroxide you can keep. First you keep the calcium hydroxide which is not setting one. Then you keep the dical and then you keep a DIC or a composite on top of it, or biodenine, whatever it is, same thing. And the composite is and restore the tooth. So a procedure, just want to show you a procedure when this condition, when a microscopic exposure is there. This is immature pulp. isolate, and with the help of that, you open the site a little bit. Open the site a little bit and remove 1 to 2 mm of the exposed pulp and control the bleeding. Can you see there is no bleeding? You can see the live pulps, and then keep the dressing material. Which is the dressing material? If you're using calcium hydroxide, plain one, or the hard setting, followed by hard setting, or Biodentin or MTA, and then use your GIC or composite and restore it back into normal form. Okay. So once it's done, then review the patient every 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. You have to review the patient. First 6 to 8 weeks is the first review, followed by 6 months and 12 months, and do a pulp sensibility test. What do you mean by sensibility? Just ask, just do a cold test. That will give you the cold test you can do. Okay, that will give you the thermal, the pulp status, the vitality of the pulp. It will be a cold test you can do. If it is normal, that means the pulp is the root is going normal physiological closure. If the cold test is too much, if it's negative, that means patient cannot bear the cold, or too much of sensitivity is there, that means there is some, you have to take an IOP and see what is happening there. Okay, so that's one thing you have to do that. So look for the periapical radiograph change on each review to check any continued root development is happening or not. Okay, the prognosis is very good. 80 to 96% study says that 80 to 90% chances of survival rate is there. That's why you can see the pulp was half formed, and with that and normal reconstruction with a good coronal seal, you can see the root is slowly elongating and natural pulp is maintained. So you have saved the tooth going for non-vitality. Okay, in very young age. So calcium hydroxide, I told you, first non-setting. This is one important step many of us miss. That's why I'm repeating again and again, and followed by dical. Okay. And there should not be any blood clot. Okay, remember I showed you there should not be any blood clot. Or other material is MTA or Biodentin, which are also doing very good result. Okay, so this is another case where same condition, accidental exposure, minute exposure has been happened while accidentally remove the soft dental caries. So don't get panic, just give an LA, rubber dam isolation, and keep an MTA. After controlling the bleeding, just keep an MTA or Biodentin, which I showed you how to mix that and take it to the cavity and keep it inside, and just restore with your amalgam or your GIC or whatever you do, and the crown if you can, it's the best. So partial pulpotomy with MTA. So apexogenesis is done in a vital young permanent tooth. Okay, vital and permanent, and there are two procedures to finally summarize it down. What is that? Partial pulpotomy or Seebeck pulpotomy, when the exposure is very minimal, and in trauma case the patient returns we come back within 12 hours or 24 hours maximum, and exposure site is very less. You can do that. This is what I just want to memorize your thing. This you can do that. If if the exposure is more, if the fracture is class 3 with half the crown is fractured, huge exposure site, patient didn't come back within 24 hours, it is 24 hours, time is relaxed, but it is under 72 hours, then you can go for a cervical pulpotomy, a full coronal pulp removal pulpotomy. Still you can save the radicular pulp. That is the beauty of it. Okay, so you can do that. So the things that you have to look, again we told, so this large exposure you have to go for a conventional cervical or full coronal pulpotomy. Otherwise Seebeck pulpotomy can be done. A clinical, now comes another clinical condition. I just want you to see another clinical condition. I'm sending a patient is coming into your clinic. Okay, the patient has got a fractured tooth, or patient has got a large dental caries, and on examination you can see the tooth is non-vital. Okay, tooth is non-vital, or there is a chronic bleeding coming from the periradicular lesion, a non-vital necrotic immature tooth. Patient did not turn for any treatment because there was no pain. I think patient came back only when the tooth has become non-vital and there is an abscess or swelling is there, or even a young permanent tooth with deep caries was there. You started removing, you were preparing for a pulpotomy, you started removing the coronal pulp, you tried 45 minutes, you tried till the bleeding is oozing, still there is an oozing of bleeding is there. 45 minutes you tried to control the bleeding, still there is an oozing of bleeding. What does that mean? I told you 2 to 5 minutes is the time that you can keep. With that time, bleeding should be stopped. So it is of waste. You more than 10 minutes itself you try to arrest bleeding, so waste of time. Remember that the pulp is irreversible inflamed in the coronal part also. you have to go for the next option. Or a condition like this, non-vital tooth. Patient is walking with a swelling or abscess or non-vital tooth, discolored non-vital tooth, or even from carious tooth has gone inside and gone, abscess is there. What will you do? So like this condition like this with a huge periapical radiolucency or a uncontrolled bleeding from the amputated site. What will you do next? Next option will be apexification. That will be the next option to do that. So it is done in a non-vital or chronically inflamed radicular pulp tooth. Again, I'm stressing that chronically inflamed, irreversible inflamed radicular pulp or a non-vital pus purulent discharge is there from those kind of caries lesion. Second thing is traumatic exposure. Patient reported after 3 days or a week back, like that. After 3 days or a week back, only patient is coming back. Then only patient started pain. By the time the pulp will be reversibly inflamed, there's nothing you can do about it. So those condition is another condition that you need to see that. So if you see these two pictures, you can see this is a good pulp, but this is not sound good. You can see bleeding coming after repeated control of bleeding. You can see bleeding is still there, red, dark red. So this I will go for apexification. I won't go for apexogenesis, but here I can go for apexogenesis. Okay. So now coming to apexogenesis, there are lots of articles which are saying this procedure with calcium hydroxide or the conventional one that we are doing is are not up to the results are varied because of multiple reasons with the calcium hydroxide. Many studies have come. Calcium hydroxide remain the gold standard, but still nowadays studies are saying that calcium hydroxide has its own fault. Many failures are done. So they started doing newer methodology. So the apexification with the calcium conventional thing with the calcium hydroxide is a problem because this procedure has a long duration. Every 3, 6, 9, 15, 18 months, it might take the calcific bridge to form. You have to depend upon the calcium hydroxide. 3, 6, 9, that much time the calcium hydroxide should remain. The coronal leakage should not be there. Fracture of tooth should not be there. So time duration is there. Every month you might have to even replace calcium hydroxide. Sometimes that also is required. So calcium and the calcific bridge formed is very thin, porous, and easily fractures. This has resistance to do a catapercha, or after you don't have sufficient strength for condensation. So that is another problem. It's very porous in nature. Sometimes they reported literature in this during waiting time, the tooth has gone for fracture also. The crown with the bite or something, the root tooth has gone fracture also. Fracture of the root is also a problem. And the coronal seal, there is a micro leakage can happen in the coronal seal because you have to wait this much time for the root to get formed, for the apical barrier to get formed. So that is also another case. And the cost, number of appointment, patient cost is too much. So nowadays calcium hydroxide apexification for the calcium hydroxide is not much being done, but still many people are doing it. There's nothing wrong, but I told you, you need multiple appointments. These are the hiccups that you can have. So that is why there is something called, it is not apexification actually. Now, since this material like MT and biodendine have come, this material has got one unique properties, nothing but unique properties that it sets faster and they act as a, and they're hard, they're very hard material it is. Once they set, they'll be check it GIC. Their strength is very good. So once you keep this material and once they set the minimum sufficient thickness, if you keep inside the apex, they will act as a natural barrier now. An artificial barrier, not natural, artificial barrier now. And underneath that, the pulp or the cemendum or whatever it is can go for formation of the bridge or anything at any point of time. So you don't depend upon the calcific bridge only. This material act as a calcific bridge or a artificial bridge. So that is the advantage. They act as a physical barrier because of the property of thickness and fast setting. And on top of that, you can do obturation because gatapercha can be plasticized. Gatapercha technique is the most common thing. That plasticized gatapercha, the thermal condensation of gatapercha, if you use it, there is no much pressure is required for that, and they can act as a thick barrier, preventing the gatapercha to go inside the apex, beyond the apex. So that is why they can be done. So how to do this? How to do with this procedure? Definitely LA isolation. All the procedure remains the same. Access opening, removal of the infected and the coronal radicular pulp because you have to remove the radicular pulp also. You determine a working length. Now, when you determine a working length, either keep either 15 mm file, 15 mm, 15 mm K file, or sorry, no, 50, the number 15 size or 20 size. I usually use even a 25 size gutta percha, because the canal is wide open here. 25 to 30 minute gutta percha, because I don't want put any harm onto the apical area. That is my main aim. So usually we use a 25 to 30 size gutta percha. We will get a correct vertical working length information. No hard instrument I will use that. Once the working length is done, then start after the removal of all the pulp and things, start irrigating. You can use hypochlorite. Again, I told you, do not pressurize too much. When you use irrigation, especially hypochlorite, it should be withdrawing action. You should insert and withdraw, so that you don't push the material, put the solution inside the chamber. Not forcefully pushing inside should be done. And EDTA followed by saline irrigation is mandatory. Once all the remove irrigants and the bleeding has been controlled, dry the canal with the paper points and keep a disinfectant inside the canal. Because if it has been long period of time, bacterial ingress might have gone beyond the apex also. You want to kill those bacteria so that secondary infection doesn't come. So you have to do a litter mix paste or a calcium hydroxide paste, non-static calcium hydroxide paste. Okay, your RC cal or your Apex cal, even your Metapex or Vitapex, anything is enough. You just keep it inside, or a litter mix paste. The best I tell you is I use the litter mix paste and calcium hydroxide 50% ratio. I mix together and keep it inside. One of the best disinfectant I found. No problem, no pain, no secondary infection, nothing. A mixture of litter mix, half litter mix and half plain calcium hydroxide powder. That powder I just put, because litter mix itself is a paste. Into that I just add the calcium hydroxide powder and keep it inside for 2 to 3 weeks. Then give an interim respiratory material and recall the patient after 3 to 4 weeks. This is a litter mix which is available. It's a combination of antibiotics. It's a very good paste that you can use, or a triple antibiotic paste also you can use. Okay, triple antibiotic, most commonly used triple antibiotic paste is minocycline, ciprofloxacin, and metronidazole. And in a propylene glycol or saline or carrier you can use. So you mix it 1:1:1:1 ratio. You mix it. That's more than enough, and you can keep it inside as a disinfectant medium. Okay, as an intracanal medicament, you can keep it for 2 to 3 weeks minimum. You keep, that is better. Once IRM is given, after 2 to 3 weeks, when the patient comes, check for any symptoms. You remove the IRM, open the canal, dry the canal. Once the canal is dry, no problem, no bleeding, nothing, it is done. Then first thing I tell you, you buy you have extracted tooth right in your clinic. That's how I learned. Extracted tooth are there, right? It inside, and then start using it by yourself. Okay, so you get you yourself can learn by yourself. You want, that is the best thing that I've learned. This how to keep it inside with MG and biodendine. How to keep it inside. The minimum 2 to 4 with the help of, I will show you, with the help of a GP con, reverse of the GP con. You keep it inside the so minimum 2 to 4 and thickness should be given. So you have to take an IOP and see how much thickness that has come. Once the sufficient thickness have come, just keep a small roll of moist and sterile cotton, squeeze the excess water, and just 9 minutes is the setting time for biodendine, and 15 minutes is for MTA. One is done, remove the cotton, irrigate it, and remove all the excess material. And then you have the same sitting, if you want, you can use it, or the next sitting you can call it for 1 week or 2 weeks. You can call and you can do GP filling. So single sitting also you can do. If the patient is ready to wait for 10-15 minutes, you can do a single sitting, or after 2 to 3 weeks, you can call the patient. That will be best. So according to my suggestion, that is the best. And remove the temporary and go for GP filling and give a good coronal seal. So this is a canal where wide open, and 3 to 4 mm, even a minimum 4 mm of apical plug should be there with the biodendine or an MTA, and then you fill with this one. So you have a layer of MTA plug in the apex, followed by GP filling and your coronal seal. So this is called MTA apexification. So this MTA or the biodendine, this material act as the natural apex, that bridge. Okay. Now with this material, with this osteointegration property, they will form a apical barrier later. But you don't have to depend upon that apical barrier to form to do this filling. For calcium hydroxide, you have to wait. You have to wait till you get the barrier. Here you don't need that. So you can directly do with filling and coronal seal can be done. Fine. So that is one. And case 2, one more case. Just want to show you one more case. Same condition, same apical thing is done. Apical the thing is done. You wait it, fill it, and finally the apical plug is formed with an MTA and followed by GP filling can be done. So that there you will get a osteointegration with the surrounding tissues. Okay, so there is no natural root development here. There's a apical barrier is artificially induced by you, and you can make the two survive for lifelong. No problem. The good success rate is there. Now the last part is the revascularization procedure. Now this procedure is being done in general body, many medical field. It's been done long back. Revascularization of our blood vessels, even your cardiac vessels, revascularization has been done, tested, time tested one, it has been done. But now it is being used in dental pulp also. Revascularization of the dental pulp is also being done, because there is a potential that we can even revascularize the dental pulp and maintain the integrity of the dental pulp and maintain the vitality of the tooth. That's the most important thing. Okay. See, in a non-vital tooth, the strength of the tooth is compromised. In a non-vital tooth, the tooth become more brittle because it loses all the water content. It become more brittle. So all means we have to preserve the vitality of the tooth at any point of time, and the vitality of the tooth is preserved, is maintained not by the nerve vessels. It is not by the nerve vessels the vitality is preserved. It is the blood vessel that determines the vitality. Okay, so that is the latest concept. Preserve, let the vessels regenerate, and let they have a vitality be maintained, so that tooth is still vital in nature. That is called regenerative endodontics. The potential of regenerative endodontics, where revascularization is also called revascularization. The canals which have lost the vascularization, the normal blood vessels, everything has been lost due to infection. You are inducing the new blood vessels from the apex to grow into that canal. Okay, so it's called revascularization or regenerative endodontics, or it is also called BioSeal technique. The latest, so many others have called so many names, but the concept is same. All the concept is same. Revascularization is there. So it is done in a non-vital and permanent tooth with wide open canal. So this apexification, if you want, you can do that. That is also equally good. But the latest thing is revascularization, which you require one more appointment and one more simple procedure. Exactly all the procedures for apexification, these are same, except one single additional procedure. That's all that you have to do. One single procedure step. So the indication remains the same: non-vital, necrotic, pulp with huge periapical lesion, or non-vital tooth it is. You can do that. Okay, that's the procedure. So again, the procedure remains the same: LA, isolation, access opening, removal of infected part, everything remains the same. Determine the working length, everything has remains the same. Irrigating the thing with the hypochlorite or EDTA, control the bleeding and dry the canal with the paper points or anything. Here, the maximum care you should give for the apex, because you don't want a single surviving regenerative potential of any cell to be lost. So never use a broach, never use a H file, never use a heavy instrument to do irrigation in the apex. Sorry, instrumentation in the apex, because you need that pluripotent shell, that is cells that is present in the apex, to be there. So that's very kind. Be very kind to the apex of the pulp. Control the bleeding and dry the canal with the paper points. disinfect the canal. Again, I told you, all the procedure remains the same for the apexification, no change. Okay, you have made the canal sterile now. With this procedure, you made the canal sterile with the leader mix or a triple antibiotic paste or calcium iodide or a combination. You made the canal sterile. That's the first thing that you need. You need a sterile, germ-free canal. Then only you can use regeneration. Okay. Now, in the next appointment, you remove all the paste or whatever it is, just remove. Irrigation is done. Canal drying is done. Now, with the help of a file, usually 15 to 20 or 25 file, you go beyond the apex, just go beyond the apex and you induce a bleeding. Okay, you just go, you have no the working length, you already know. So 2 to 3 beyond the apex you go, you just induce some bleeding. Very easy. Otherwise also we do that. So it is very easy to induce bleeding. So with the help of a canal file. Now the aim is to get a fresh blood. Fresh bleeding will come from the site. And this bleeding will slowly start coming, and you can see the bleeding coming through the openings of your access. Let it come, let it go. Don't touch anything. Don't try to try it, don't touch anything. Now, after some time, you can see the bleeding stops there. Okay. Now a clot will form inside the canal. A clot will form inside the canal. Now this acts as a matrix for regeneration cell. So entire length of the canal, a clot will be formed which acts as a matrix for regeneration. So once the clot has formed in the canal, a cement called MT or biodentine is placed at the coronal part of the canal, followed by your restoration of the tooth. And the tooth is reviewed every 6 months to 12 months to determine whether the root length is forming or not. Every 6 months to 12 months, you have to take an IOP and see whether the root length is forming or not. Just see this procedure. Non-vital tooth, you can see non-vital tooth with axis. Taking a YouTube video to show you what the procedure is. Thanks to YouTube for this video. Regenerative potential of the cell, which I have already told you right here. Regeneration potential is there. It affects. You can see the pus, non-vital tooth, necrotic pus with the bleeding. You can see coming out. Chronic scar. Hypochlorite along with the ultrasonic this one, that means we can remove all the debris faster. The canal is free of all debris, pulp remnant. And EDT used, 70% EDT is used. It's a final irrigation. Go beyond and induce bleeding, you can see a clot is forming in the entire length of the canal. Wait for clot formation to take place before. That means clot has to be formed. Then keep MTA. Just keep a MTA on the top of the clot. Here again, I suggest you at least minimum 4 thickness of MT. If you keep, it will be better. to 15 minutes, MTA will set. You use PG or composite or any material you can use to restore it. That's what. You should have sufficient thickness. 4 to 4 mm thickness minimum of MTA should be there. Slowly you can see it remains asymptomatic, and slowly this discharge, this abscess will go there. That is a procedure for revascularization. So additional one thing only you do here, induce bleeding and let the clot form and keep the same material, biodentin or MTA. That's it, nothing else. Okay. So that's what induce bleeding. Once the bleeding is induced, proper clot is formed, keep the material, MTA biodentin, and fill it with a GIC or a composite. You can do that. Okay. And you can see the apex is lengthening. You can see the apex here, the apex is slowly getting length. Just to wind up with a case, just a child 11 years of age came with a fracture with a non-vital tooth. Both the central incisors were fractured around 1 year back. It's non-vital with a huge lesion. It's also developing. We did MTA revascularization has been done, and you can see the apex is slowly getting formed. You can see the apex lengthening. Natural closure of the apex is getting formed. Okay, so and it is restored after with resin composites or a crown. We can give that. And to let you, I'm very proud to tell that my PGs have done this, and they got the best paper award in ISPPD 2018 conference. They got the best poster award for this paper, which they presented, regenerative endodontics for 2 teeth, for an anterior and a posterior teeth. That's the cases that I presented to you. So I convey my regards to my PGs. They have really done a good job for that. So what did we learn? Young permanent teeth and its importance we have learned. They are mostly affected by caries or trauma, especially class 3 fracture, and your incisor, molar incisor hypomineralization. If they are done with that, you have 3 procedures for apexogenesis, apexification, and revascularization, which you have dealt in detail. So just to wind up, if you have to practice a lot, this is just a TikTok video. Just want to share the way that how to make the child walk properly. You have to walk, you have to train, and you get trained a lot with that. So start taking an extracted tooth, do this procedure, buy this material, keep it inside. You will get a good result. This is my Facebook page, Latest in Dentistry. You can request there. There are lots of courses coming. There are lots of job opportunity, especially in the Middle East. So many things are there. So that updates are coming. A lot of newer products, newer technique, newer webinars. Everything is posted in this group. There are 25,000 dentists all over India. I don't know how many of you are there. I'm the admin of that group. So if you're a dentist, your friends are there, you can refer, you can get lots of information from this Instagram, the WhatsApp number. If you have any help, anything is there. So that's done. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Binu.
Yes, Dr. Jabi, that was an excellent presentation to the point. The proof of that is, Dr. Jabi, there are lots and lots of questions in the chat box.
Oh
You're
my
going to
God.
go in there and quickly
Yeah.
go through it. We have very few minutes remaining in the session. So in case if the session gets cut, please feel free to ask the questions in the group you are in. We may not be able to answer all the questions at this point of time. This might get cut abruptly anytime. Okay. Don't feel bad about it. You can post in the group. Jabi, you want to check the chat box?
Yeah. to what size of tooth, with the periapical lesion should be there? There is, Doctor, there one question by Dr. Tabaswi Singh is to what size of tooth with the periapical lesion should be apex. If you are doing the newer materials and proper protocols with the follow-ups, I suggest you size of the lesion is not that important unless if the lesion doesn't subside, so you want to go for an open apicectomy or anything or any apical curettage or anything is done. But that's you can say there are studies which says a huge periapical lesions of around 3 to 4 or 5 mm size can be easily healed with the help of the recent material. Which are all the important thing is your sterile environment. You have to use a sterile canal, should be properly sterile, and the nature will take care of itself. And if you want to more, you can. You have. I don't know whether you have attended. Dr. Shiji Kunyappan is a pioneer in endodontics who deals with the blunderbuss canal. I was happy enough to see one of his lectures and see he has quoted that he never does surgical endodontics. Any huge lesions you can with and his methodology is be kind to the apex and sterile canal is the most important. The coronal seal and sterile and follow-up is more important thing. So I have done with the 3 to 4 mm or 5 mm size apical lesions easily healed with the help of the newer materials or with the things. So I don't believe size of the lesions. You can do an attempt, but I told follow-up and coronal seal is important. So amelogenesis imperfecta is a genetic condition. It affects all the teeth. This is molar and incisor alone is been usually affected because you can see white patches or the brownish yellowish patches on the incisors, and the same thing will be on the first molar also. So molar incisor hypomineralization, because these two teeth have almost forms, the enamel forms almost at the same time, and during that time then injury or any disturbance will lead to this hypoplasia. Amelogenesis imperfecta is you can see in almost all the teeth, and it's a genetic condition that we are talking about. Is the term vital pulp therapy and yes, almost say almost vital pulp therapy and apexogenesis are there. Now direct pulp capping, indirect pulp capping in an immature teeth are all the same procedure called apexogenesis. You are promoting the apex. I here showed apexogenesis by opening it up like Sevac pulpotomy and pulpotomy. So there is all are the same, comes under same procedure. When do we plan for extraction of first permanent molar in case of severe? When the crown structure is not good, I should say that. When the crown structure is so bad, you can't restore it back to the normal form and function, it is better. I have done a case where two permanent molars were so grossly decayed below the gingiva, it has gone. So in those conditions, it is better to remove and allow the second molar to migrate onto that push as early as possible rather than trying to build up onto this tooth which is not going to stay there. To determine vitality, you have to either vitality test you can do, but in young permanent tooth, the vitality test, none of the vitality tests. So the best thing will be open it up. If the patient has complaint, open it up and see whether the pulp is white. That's the clinical evaluation would be the best. If it is a long-standing, discoloration will be there. There will be an abscess. There will be a bone loss. There will be periapical lesion will be there. Best biocompatible apexogenesis nowadays, they say MTA and biodenim both are equally successful for apexogenesis. Calcium hydroxide also is not bad. I'm not saying against anything calcium hydroxide, but these two materials are recently I'm using it and I'm getting a lot of good results. That's all. How do we determine what we removed or what we removed all infected part? This hemorrhage and color is if you want to see that whether you removed all the infected pulp, I told you from the root, by the coronal pulp, if you remove and if the radicular pulp is not bleeding, that means all the infected pulp is gone. That's the best indicator. Bleeding and color, bright red color is a good pulp, but oozing out dark red, it's a non-vital or irreversibly inflamed pulp. Cevex pulpotomy is around 80 to 96% success rate is there. Cevex pulpotomy. best medium to preserve levels in a hash bank solution is the best medium, but every home may not have this. So milk or patient saliva is also not bad. So one of the best medium that you can, so milk is the best medium which is easily available in your home. How much minimum remaining dentinal thickness for performing the dentinal thickness, in an X-ray can be misleading to perform a pulpotomy if you're planning. So minimum 2 mm thickness is there, it's well and fine. But I tell you, when you open it up, if you see the pulp status, you can think about either going for a cervic pulpotomy or a cervical pulpotomy.